Hi everyone, I'm Jo Fry and this is my channel Jojo Fry Rocks, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite, actually my top 5 favourite guitar teacher channels on YouTube. If you're anything like me, which I guess you must be if you're watching this channel, you know, you're probably someone who is still interested in learning things about playing guitar, from learning, you know, how to play some of your favourite songs and the riffs and solos of the guitar heroes that you might have, through to just kind of learning technique and all the rest of it. So, you know, there's absolutely hundreds. There's just loads and loads of them on YouTube now. YouTube, I think, is just such a brilliant free resource for anyone from kind of beginners all the way through to advanced players. There are plenty of channels that teach way advanced techniques. I'm not really going to be dipping into those because that's not where I'm at, even though some of them are super interesting. And actually, a lot of the female guitar players do a lot of these super amazing tutorials at very sort of advanced levels. But unfortunately, just being female doesn't make me anywhere near as good as they are. So I'm kind of sticking with the sort of middle of the road guys, who sort of take things through from sort of beginner to a sort of intermediate kind of level, I guess. They do also teach some more advanced songs, and one of them in particular does things where he will break down a song into different versions, so different levels for, you know, according to where you're at, so that it enables anyone at any level to be able to play a song, and it will sound reasonably good. So, and I've tried a few of these and it actually works really well, and one level is kind of used as a stepping stone to get to the next level, which I think is super cool. So anyway, let's get down to who my top 5 recommended guitar tutor YouTube channels are. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Mike from The Art of Guitar. So the channel is called The Art of Guitar, and Minnesotan Mike is the tutor. And I think what's great about Mike is, firstly, that he just comes across as such a nice, warm kind of personality. He is just a super nice guy. I feel like if he was your guitar teacher in real life, I can really imagine him being an actual real life guitar teacher, which he has been for decades. And he's bringing all of that experience to his channel and to his tutorials. I think he's kind of around the same age as I am, like early 40s. It seems like we've grown up in the same kind of era in terms of the music that he's actually into, and he talks quite a lot about the music that he likes. A lot of metal. You know, he kind of grew up with Metallica, Slayer, all the kind of the big 4 like thrash bands, but also kind of a lot of 80s rock as well, and hair metal, but then kind of moved on, as I did, I guess, through the 90s into grunge. He's a big fan of Nirvana, so that's obviously going to play well with me. And when I've been doing videos about Nirvana and about Kurt Cobain and things, his channel has really been my sort of go-to reference for all things to do with how to play Nirvana songs. It's absolutely brilliant, and he did this one video where he went through sort of something like the 28 best techniques of Kurt Cobain, which just kind of blew my mind, really. And that's where I got a lot of the stuff for my video from. That is just, you know, every one of these things is something unique that Kurt did, and that Mike has sort of taken and analysed, broken down, demonstrated, and demonstrated how to do and how to play. And I think he makes things really understandable, really straightforward. His demonstrations are very good. His explanations are very good. He's not one of these sort of like Rick Beato theory guys. He always just puts things across in a very straightforward way, but also in a really fun way. And I really love the way that he will look at, he definitely grew up the same time as me, because he'll get out his old tab books kind of from the early 90s. I've got a bunch of them myself. And they are hilarious to look at. So he will do things like explore bad tab, particularly Metallica. He's got a bunch of like Metallica tab books, and he'll go through and play sort of, you know, any Metallica song, Master of Puppets or something, as if, you know, as if you played it how it's written in the tab book. And 99% of the time it just sounds completely wrong and nothing like the song. And this is very much an experience that I've had, and I remember a lot of the time feeling so frustrated that I've bought this tab book and I'm trying to play these songs and trying to learn them, and you'll play along with the track and it just won't sound like it at all. And at the time, I guess you really didn't question it. You didn't just kind of think, well, this is just some person trying to transcribe something that they've figured out. We didn't have anything like the kind of tools and things that we have nowadays to analyse stuff. So yeah, these tab books are hilarious. But also above and beyond his actual guitar tutorials that he does, which, as I say, are excellent. And actually one of the other things that I've learnt from him was the sort of opening of Purple Rain by Prince. And that's one where he goes through, I think, the 7 levels of the opening of Purple Rain. So kind of teaches you a really sort of basic structure for the chord progression. And if you put enough kind of delay, chorus, reverb, and sort of get the right-ish sounding guitar tone, it doesn't sound bad. Like, it really doesn't sound bad. It sounds close enough if you were just sort of to do a cover version. I think you'd get away with it. But then he sort of goes through the next 6 levels, getting you closer and closer to what Wendy actually played. I can't actually nail the 7th level, so I got to kind of around like the 6th level and tried to do it for a short. But it's the stretch on that final chord. It's an absolute killer, and she must have like way bigger hands than me, and I've got fairly big hands. But anyway, it was a brilliant video. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's been absolutely great in terms of what I've been doing here on my channel. I just use him as a reference for so many of the things that I do. So I definitely want to give him a big shout out, but also I will just watch his channel for a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the other content that he does, because it's really entertaining. So he does these, he does quite a few gig reviews, so he seems to go to quite a few gigs quite regularly, and he'll do like brutally honest gig reviews. which I think it's really good, because even sometimes when you go to see a band that you like, there can be things about it that are not quite what you expect, or maybe even a little bit disappointing, as well as sort of sharing with everyone all the great things about it. So I think it's nice to kind of get that from him, and it almost feels like he took you along to the gig, which is something that I've tried to do it here on the channel with my Richie Kotzen gig review. I don't go to a lot of gigs. That's like probably the only one for this year. So maybe, I'll maybe get to like one a year, but he goes to quite a lot more. And it does make me laugh. He always seems to, in some way or another, have like run-ins with the security. And it's really, really funny to me, because he is this super nice guy. So I don't know how he finds himself like ending up in these weird confrontational situations with the security people at gigs. And I know sometimes, I know what they're like, I do understand that like sometimes they can be a little bit job's worth, as we would say, putting it mildly. I've never had too much of a problem myself with kind of security guys, and I'm someone who, I'm probably always going to be at the front, and I'm always going to be sort of hanging around trying to meet the band or whatever, but I think I'm clearly not a very like threatening person, and they've never really sort of had much of an issue with me doing that. But also, if you are told that you need to leave, or you need to clear an area, or don't clamber up on the stage and try to get the set list, I think you probably need to respect that and listen to that. So like, do as you're told. So I think this is where some of his problems come from. But yeah, it's just quite funny to me that being such a kind of, he seems like a super chilled, nice guy, and then you hear some of these stories from his gig reviews. But yeah, he does all sorts of other things as well, where he'll kind of review like some footage of a band, for example, who are not particularly doing their best performance, and rather than being kind of negative or critical in order to be funny, he will actually give constructive and useful sort of coaching feedback, which again I think that's brilliant. For someone who kind of has got decades of experience, is a really good guitarist. He also plays drums, so he really knows what he's talking about, and he's giving the benefit of his knowledge and skills and guidance, totally for free, to these bands who are looking for that. So again, I watch some of those for entertainment, but also to kind of pick up on some of the tips and some of the sort of critique that he does, because it is actually useful to take on board, I think. So yeah, I'd completely recommend his channel if you haven't already come across it. You probably have, because I think he's got sort of 800,000 or 900,000 subscribers now. But personally, I think he deserves more. I absolutely think he deserves to have a lot more subscribers. So let's all go and like and subscribe to The Art of Guitar. He's also got kind of courses as well. Like, I think you can actually kind of sign up for all kinds of different courses. I we'll probably look into it. I'm still doing the Tim Pierce one at the moment, so like that's enough for me for now. But yeah, when I've worked my way through that, I might actually look at some of the things that that Mike's offering. So yeah, it's definitely sort of helped me on the channel, and just keeps me entertained. The second channel I'm going to talk about is called Marin Music Centre, and it's a guy called Stuart who primarily does guitar tutorials, like hundreds and hundreds of them. That's his kind of main thing. He teaches you, he breaks down all different kinds of songs from loads of different genres, but he sort of more or less uses his acoustic guitar a lot of the time, actually. I think he used to own a music shop. I think that's why the channel's called Marin Music Centre. I think that was the name of his shop. I could be wrong, but I think he started his channel like during COVID. I think he had to close his shop, but I think he kept the name, and that's why that's the name of the channel. But yeah, Stuart he's firstly a really, really good guitarist, but secondly, he's just such a fun person. I don't want to say he's got ADHD, because I have no idea, and I'm not gonna label people. But I think what I mean is that he's very energetic, but also the energy is a little bit chaotic. And I don't know whether this is just part of his personality or whether it's a deliberate kind of way of presenting his channel to make it more engaging and lively. I don't know. But certainly, it's a lot of fun and very, very funny. But he does, it's one of those where I don't know whether it's just a very good act or whether he is just like this. But he always seems to be sort of doing things kind of off the top of his head, sort of on the fly, as and when he feels like doing it. It never seems to be particularly sort of thought out or thought through. And he kind of gets confused halfway through, and sort of like it jumps around all over the place. It's a little bit hard to follow, or it can be a little bit hard to follow. So, nonetheless, if you do try to stick with it, I think it's actually super clever, because I think certainly the songs that I've learned when I've watched him, I've found actually I've picked them up very, very quickly. Songs that I thought initially would be quite difficult. So one of those was that I actually never learnt to play until now, when I was looking for things to play on my Rickenbacker, because I wanted to sort of demonstrate the sound of my Rickenbacker. One of the songs that I chose to learn was This Charming Man by the Smiths, and I thought it would be quite difficult. Johnny Marr obviously is an amazing guitarist. That's a brilliant riff, and I think it just sounds great on the Rickenbacker. So I thought, right, I'm gonna sit down and try to learn this. Initially, I looked for the tab, so I started just trying to sort of learn it by myself. It isn't that complicated, but you can have the tab in front of you and kind of work from the track and try to kind of play along with the track and stuff. And that was kind of how I was doing it to start off with. But I found that I wasn't I don't know, I wasn't clicking with it. It wasn't kind of making sense to me. I wasn't getting it under my fingers, as they say. So I kind of started looking on YouTube for some tutorials, and so that's when I actually first came across Stuart's channel. And I just really found it fun watching his tutorial video. But he will do things kind of over and over and over, and he'll teach a bit and then he'll kind of go back to the beginning, play it through again, play it through quite slowly, and then kind of build onto it and build on the next bit, and then go back to the beginning and play it all the way through up to the bit he's just taught. It almost is like being in a room with someone teaching you how to play it. I feel like that's how he would do it, if you were there with him, kind of thing. But all the kind of stuff that all his kind of energy and, you know, everything that he kind of puts into it sort of keeps you engaged. Like, it could be like guitar tuition can be very dry, like it really can be. It could be quite dull, quite plodding, and quite an effort. Whereas I didn't feel like it was at all, and I watched this video through, I played along with it through with him, and I just feel like he gives you so much encouragement as well. Even though I know, like, he doesn't know what I'm doing, he can't see me, but I kind of feel like he can. So I think that's quite an achievement, to be able to kind of do that. I think, yeah, he's just a really fun person, but you do have to be in, I think, the right frame of mind. You know, you've got to be up for it to watch his channel. So yeah, it's not the most relaxing, let's put it that way. But do go and check him out, because he's a lot of fun. And I think he does some other bits and pieces. I think he's starting to branch out and cover other things. So when I was making the video about my EQ pedal and how to kind of get the best out of, like, the equipment that you already have, sort of getting away from gear acquisition syndrome, I've referenced one of his videos where he kind of talks about something similar, not specifically about an EQ pedal, but just about, like, how to use EQ, and kind of talking you through, like, the basic settings of an amp and stuff, which was incredibly helpful to me, actually, and really refreshing, to come across a guitar channel that is kind of supportive of that message, that, like, you don't need to always be going out buying gear, pedals, different amps, different guitars. You know, you can achieve a range of sounds and tones, almost pretty much with kind of any guitar and a fairly basic standard amp. So yeah, I thought that was actually really, really good and really refreshing. And again, it was done in his kind of unique style. So I'm pretty sure I put a link to that video in the description of my gear acquisition syndrome video. So yeah, big thumbs up for Stuart at Marin Music Centre. Now, you can't make a video about YouTube guitar teachers without talking about Marty Schwartz. I think he's kind of something of a legend now, isn't he? I think he's probably one of the guys that's been around for the longest. He's been around for, like, just a long time. And not that he's particularly old or anything, but just, I think, you know, he's had his channel for a really long time. And he is just so enthusiastic, like, about guitar, about music, He covers all kinds of different genres of guitar music, but I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like rock is where he's at, you know, sort of blues based rock, and also the kind of 90s kind of Seattle bands, grunge, I suppose. Metal as well, I think, but I just feel like he just comes across as a real kind of rock guy. He's just such an engaging person, and again, he's one of these guitar teachers that I can imagine sort of being in a room with. He really has this ability to break things down in a very simple way, and explain things kind of without making it unnecessarily complicated, without kind of diving too much into theory. Not that learning or knowing guitar theory is a bad thing, or music theory, and you know, I have tried to kind of get more into it myself. I got the Beato book and the bundle and everything, and I enjoy watching Rick talk through some of like the complexity of, you know, a Nirvana or Alice in Chains song or something. I think it's really fascinating. But when I just want to know how to play something, because I just want to do a short, maybe, or I'm thinking of things in order to demonstrate something, like something about my amp or one of my guitars or something, and I think, oh, I know this song would be a really good way to do that, but I don't know how to play it. For a really quick lesson, a quick way to assimilate that knowledge, I will probably go first to Marty Schwartz and see if he's got a tutorial on it, because I just find him super easy to understand, and so I'm sure if I do, most people will. And I think that's why he's been incredibly successful. You know, he does incredibly well. But you know, it's also his enthusiasm for the music, I think, and for playing the guitar. And I think, wow, you know, he's kept that going, and he keeps up that level of enthusiasm. It's a little bit in the same way that Tim Pierce does, you know. These guys have such a love of it and a passion for it, and that really comes across. So I think that's another reason why I will always kind of keep going back to his channel. But he also seems to be like involved, I think, with Boss, because he will very often use he often uses a Boss katana to play, you know, through his tutorials. And so he does sort of like, he makes an effort to try to like emulate the sound of whatever the song or band is that he's playing. And that's brilliant for me, because I have a Boss katana as well. And he actually will make patches and release like free patches. So if you're looking to learn a song or cover a song, and you happen to have a Boss, you know, one of these kind of Boss modelling amps, you know, if you go to the tone exchange, the tone library, you'll find there's a whole kind of Marty Schwartz section and library of patches that you can download for free. It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. And I've downloaded quite a few of them. They're not all perfect, and you know, sometimes you do have to kind of tweak it. But you know what? You can do that. Like, you can do that fairly easily with the software. And even like for someone like me who's not particularly technical, that's kind of quite straightforward to do. And it really helps actually to have, so even if you take one of his patches as a starting point, but you don't think it sounds quite right, you can just kind of make small adjustments to the various parameters, and pretty quickly you'll get something that you think sounds great. So even if it's not 100% there, it gives you a really great starting point. So yeah, I totally always start off by checking out whether Marty's done a tutorial, as my kind of initial step towards learning something that I don't know. And of course, he is a massive Beatles fan, so that instantly won me over when as soon as I realised that he was a fellow fan of the Beatles. Then that made me like him even more. One of the most useful channels that I've come across for the stuff that I've been doing on my channel is a guy called Lendt, and I have to read you his kind of description in his about on his channel, because I just love this. Of course I would, wouldn't I? He says, "Together we're going to learn every song ever written in the history of mankind, starting with Pearl Jam related and related songs. In other words, songs that are close to my heart, and maybe they're close to yours as well." They are. That'll keep us busy for quite some time, but after that, wherever the wind takes us. So yeah, I'm in. Obviously I'm in, and he is great. Obviously he loves Pearl Jam, so that's a big tick in my book. And he will actually kind of take you through like all the chords, like all the different kind of options that you have for playing it, a little bit like, I suppose a little bit in the same way that Mike does, not in quite as structured a way, but he will kind of show you like easier or more difficult and more advanced ways of playing things. Like one of the actual kind of video series that he does is his sort of like campfire versions of songs, and like that, to me, that's the kind of stuff that like that's my go-to. Like open mic nights, campfires, or when I was younger anyway, kind of house parties, just barbecues, anywhere where there may be an acoustic guitar and an opportunity to entertain people. That's what I'm all about. That's, I'm here for that. So, I like to kind of have a really super long kind of list of songs in my head that I can play in a quite simple, relatively straightforward way, that are recognisable, that are popular, and that people are going to enjoy listening to. So it's all well and good. Like, I like to challenge myself sometimes. I like to learn complicated guitar parts to see if I can do it. I like to learn solos. I've got solos that I've been working on for 30 years and I still haven't nailed them. And so I do like to kind of practice those things myself at home, but they're generally not things that I'm probably ever necessarily going to play in public, with the exception of like putting out videos and shorts here on YouTube on this channel. But that's a completely different thing. That's in a context of like recording them myself at home without an audience, and being able to kind of do it over again a couple of times if I wasn't quite happy with it. So that's a kind of different thing. But what I genuinely love is just the ability to kind of pull out, I don't know, 4 or 5 songs off the top of my head on an acoustic guitar and effectively just like play a live set off the bat, impromptu, in those sort of circumstances, of popular songs that people will recognise and that will be fun for everyone. And this guy is doing exactly that. That's exactly what he's giving you. And actually, on a lot of the songs, he sort of explores, you know, will it campfire? Like, because obviously you can't necessarily do a simplified version of every song. There are some that just don't lend themselves to that sometimes. But nonetheless, I like the fact that he sees that as a challenge and he will take it on and he will have a go. And it might not always sound brilliant, and then he kind of invites you to comment and give your thoughts and opinions and say whether or not you think it worked. So, you know, I think that's a pretty cool approach, and I really like that. And I actually learnt when Dan said that he liked Incubus, and I'm really into Incubus, and you know, I said, oh, can we do this song or that song? And one of them that we decided we are going to cover if we go to an open mic night is Wish You Were Here. I didn't necessarily know how to play it. I knew bits and pieces. Dan knew the riff and the kind of bits that you play in the verse, but I went straight to Ryan Lendt to look up the sort of easy campfire version, and that's the version that we're using, and that's the version that I used when I did a DI recording of it a couple of weeks ago. So again, like another incredibly useful one, but also a guy who, again, is probably around a similar age to me. I feel like grew up around kind of the same time, definitely into the same kind of music. So there's a lot of stuff for me there on his channel. And if that's the sort of stuff that you're into as well, go and check him out if you want to learn some nice, cool sounding campfire versions. Finally, when I do want to get serious and really learn note for note any song, you know, the whole way through, the exact way that it's played, sort of note for note, I will go to Carl Brown. I think his channel's called Guitar Lessons 365. Guitar Lessons 365 Song. That's the name of his channel. But the guy himself is Carl Brown. He's got nearly 1.5 million subscribers, and the reason why is because he's so good. He's the guy who he'll break it all down and take you through it, like at a reasonable kind of pace, and you know, not so slowly that it's not necessarily for total beginners. It's definitely more for kind of like intermediate plus, but he still doesn't sort of like go too fast for you to keep up. He's not a guy that I have to kind of watch at half the speed or something. I think he's reasonably pacey, but he does, I think, assume that you are, you kind of at least know what you're doing, a bit like me, I suppose. So I feel quite comfortable with this channel. But yeah, he covers all kinds of songs, but I've been able to find like everything that I've wanted. When I was kind of going through doing the Slash stuff, for example, there's a lot of Guns N' Roses stuff, a lot of Slash stuff on there. Def Leppard as well. Like I've been trying to learn quite a few Def Leppard songs and solos. And what I like about him as well is that he will also talk about guitar tone and how to achieve that. He won't necessarily go through like the exact equipment that guitarist used or whatever, but he will tell you the basics of like what the building blocks are of that tone and how to achieve it. I think he actually does have a course all about guitar tone that looks kind of interesting, and I might actually kind of check that out. He's got all kinds of courses. They delve into theory, improvisation, soloing, those more sort of intermediate to advanced skills. There are lots of, he's got quite a few different courses on offer, which again is something that I'm quite interested in and I might check out. But he is a more, what shall I say, a more serious sort of channel, if you like, or for people who want to get more serious about their playing. It's not kind of the fun joking around, let's have a laugh, let's be a bit chaotic and like, hey, let's see how much fun we can have with a campfire version of whatever. He's not that guy. He's the guy that I think expects you to do some homework. But that's totally fine, isn't it? Because if you are sort of seriously trying to learn something and trying to improve, and trying to kind of push yourself and develop your skills and develop your playing, I think you can't really go wrong with Carl's channel. He's just a very, down-to-earth, kind of straightforward guy. You can tell as well that he loves the songs, he loves playing guitar, he loves guitars. Don't we all? And he's got some really cool ones as well, which, what's the point of being a guitar teacher on YouTube if not to have some really super nice guitars and show them off, right? So yeah, I kind of love that about him. But he's done a lot of other stuff as well. He's got a website that you can go to and kind of see all of his like lessons and tutorials and packages that you can sign up for. But he does podcasts as well. Like, I think he's actually quite a nice host. He's quite a good interviewer. He's obviously been doing this for a very long time. And yeah, I just really like him. And you could do a lot worse than kind of listening into some of his podcasts and checking out some of his lessons. And so that's it. Those are my top 5 YouTube guitar teachers. And overall, I think it's amazing that I get to have like these awesome guitar teachers, and I'm not even paying for any lessons, and they're there whenever I want them, anytime, day or night, and I know that I can reliably go to any of these channels and there will be something that I will want to learn, I will want to practice, or I will want to watch just for entertainment. So if you haven't come across some of them, go and check them out. It's well worth it. And yeah, do let me know of any others that you might have come across that might be kind of similar to any of these guys, or that I might not have heard of. But yeah, just do yourself a favour and, you know, go and watch one of these guys. Cheers.